Hello, and in the week when Ardy Sarvea should be the All Blacks captain, Farrell's getting banned, Wasps are firmly back, Milani Nanai is complete waste at Worcester, Leinster on course for a third straight title. Who will face the Brumbies? Will it be the Reds or the Rebels in the Super Rugby AU final? And the European rugby restructure, is it a stroke of genius or a complete mess? That's all coming up on this week's episode of the Ruck 'Em All podcast. Lads, the return of Johnny and Joe. You weren't here last week, lad. You're back. How you getting on?
Good, yeah, not too bad. Caught up on a lot of rugby this weekend, so yeah, I'm happy. Back watching lots of rugby.
I mean, I'm semi-back, as I just said to you guys. I'm here in person. I'm on the podcast, but I wasn't able to watch any of them live this weekend. So I'm doing bits of it, but just been catching up on some of the highlights. Missed some really good rugby, it looks like. But back to school now, back to term time tomorrow. So we're going to have to see how we go from now on. But yeah.
Mate, always make time for rugby, and I'm always going to make time for New Zealand rugby at the moment because, quite frankly, it's the best rugby on the planet by an absolute mile. Like, let's start with the North v South game, 38-35, 10 tries in all, and then Josh Ione, not Richie Mo'unga, Justin Marshall, who you said on commentary, Richie Mo'unga's done it. He had been off the pitch for 20 minutes before Josh Ione did that lovely crossfield kick to set Will Jordan. Did feel a bit sorry for Mitch Hunt, who's considerably shorter than him, completely missed the aerial battle, but what a finish to what a game. Johnny, I know you've seen it. I think Joe's going to watch the highlights now, but I fucking love New Zealand rugby. Oh, so good.
Yeah, I think that was the finish they deserved before they go into the Rugby Championship. I think kind of like that just summed up Aotearoa and kind of the skill level. It was so good. And actually, as I've probably been banging on about for weeks, when I was on the podcast when the rugby was on for New Zealand, Will Jordan, class. Hope he gets a few starts. Now he's in the squad, can make his debut.
Yeah, we're going to go over the squad in a minute, but I just thought we'd just quickly pop out any other players that really stood out. And then we get into the thing. Just for me, Geordie Barrett is unbelievable. He's going to be, I reckon, in the next year will be better than Bowden, as in more influential on a pitch. Because for me, he starts for New Zealand at 15. He was better than Damien McKenzie. His finish is absolute quality. He obviously can goal kick. He's big, he's tall, he's powerful. He was class. Let's get into the squad, unless you've got anything else on the game you wanted to go into, Johnny. Or should we go to the squad?
No, not really. I just think it was just Geordie Barrett, agreed, and he's a bit of a unit at fullback. To have a fullback of that size, he's a big boy.
Yeah, as I say, all offload from the game anyway. Offloads all over the place. Big up to my boy Tyro Lomax getting a try after all the offloads took place, and then he hits an absolute cracking line in the second half. That's one of the highlights of the tries. Caleb Clark looks quality. Rieko Ioane is brilliant at 13. Probably cemented that down as his spot. But we're going to look at the squad, and Hoskins Tutu's in, absolutely brilliant. Cullen Grace is in there. Like, obviously he was injured with the Crusaders. I can see why he's in there. I just feel a little bit sorry for Tom Christie, who is by far the best 7 on the pitch. He was fantastic over the ball. Dylan Hunt again has been quite good for the Highlanders, but maybe didn't get the minutes he needed in that game. But Tom Sanders was a standout forward for me. He was incredible at 8. That was like, yeah, he looks a bit average at the Crusaders. He looked flipping decent.
Yeah, and he did a lot of carrying around the park. And he's just, very good. But yeah, the squad, I don't know whether we could run through just what we think the first 15 would look like, potentially. Or if there'd be any big changes. So I think it'll be the forwards that will change a lot. I think there'll be a question over who's 10. Aaron Smith will be 9. The centre's probably going to be maybe Jack Goodhue and Rico.
Yesterday. Yeah.
And then what would be nice would be to see a Geordie Barrett, Caleb Clark, Will Jordan back three. I think would be interesting.
Yeah, it's difficult. I still think Severies gets in there for me on the wing. Caleb Clark, again, stood up in a game. He gets a lovely break and he looks just... They were like, oh, is he too early? Don't just go with him. Like, he's clearly got the ability. It's like Hoskins Tutu they were talking about in the game. They're comparing him to Zinzan Brook and like, the kid's 22. Get him in at 8 and just back him. Because he could be around for 10 years in the New Zealand. He could win the World Cup twice. Like, get him in and start him. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like, the forwards wise, you're probably looking at a front row of Joe Moody. Probably Cody Taylor starts over Coles at the moment. He's looking good. And then you probably go Tunga Fassi at tight head. You're then looking at Patrick Tuipulotu and Sam Whitelock. They were the best locks on the pitch. And then back row, Sam Cane, for me, doesn't get in that 23. I know he's the new All Black captain, but he doesn't get in the 23 for me. I was thinking about this. I would go Shannon Frizzell at 6. He's the best 6 in New Zealand. Another monster game in the North-South game. Ardy Sarver at 7. Hoskins at 8. And then Dalton Papali'i on the bench. And then you can fiddle with what you want. Dalton comes off. That's his best position because he was explosive. He changed the game for the North. The South were pulling away. The North come on. Bench comes on. Really, really explosive. He was explosive when he comes off against the Blues. First game out against Hurricanes and Super Rugby Aotearoa. Scores a try. There'll be a lot of... This will trigger a lot of people, but Sam Cane at the moment, he wasn't the best player for the Chiefs. Lachlan Boshier was best, and he's not even in the squad. I know he's the captain, but you can change the captaincy.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, there's a host of people who've got just as much, if not like more experience. I mean, Ardy Severe, I reckon, would probably be a good captain. But I think when you go and look at the rugby championship that they're going to go into, they should beat Australia. I know the Australians have been playing rugby, but they should beat Australia. South Africa and Argentina, they're going to go into this competition having not played rugby for months and months. So actually, put your young guys out because they should be okay. Because it's going to take a while for like the South Africans and Argentinians to get back into it. Because they won't have played rugby for months. So I just give the young guys a go. And if Sam Cane's on good form next year, give him some game time.
I would say, just quickly, you know, about the row of Will Jordan. I think Will Jordan's class. I think he'll be good in that 23 shirt because he can cover the wing and he can cover fullback if they needed to. But yeah, me personally, Geordie starts at fullback.
Yeah.
But I don't see why Will Jordan, again, he scores a try. Like we made the prediction thing that he was going to be a try scorer. The ball goes loose. The North are looking to push wide, pounce on a ball, runs in for 40 metres out. It's a quality try. So he can cope on the wing, but I just think for explosive dynamism, Caleb Clark and Severies just do a little bit more exciting.
Yes. Yeah. It'll be interesting as well, 10.
Who was... Did Richie... They both didn't really have X Factor games, I wouldn't have said.
No. But not basing it off that. Richie is definitely the informed player for
100%. And then both
the Crusaders and probably the league. And if you're going to put Geordie at fullback, then do you have Bowden on the bench and then he can cover a load of positions? It's a tough one, but it'll be interesting. But I think it'll be interesting to see how they approach the rugby championship, whether it's a testing ground or whether they're actually going out to smash every game.
I was just going to say very quickly, yes, you've got the rugby championship's going to be very competitive. There's a lot of talk, obviously, on Rugby Pass and other sort of Southern Hemisphere platforms as well. They were talking about, can they make the North v South game a 3 test series? That would be brilliant. That would sell out every week because if they would sort of, in hypothetical situations, a game in Wellington, a game in Otago, because you've got to take it down to the south, and then you go up to Auckland for the final game. That would be incredible. Because that
is low.
Yeah, like 100%. Like, I think it might have been Ardi Surveyor. I don't want to quote on this, but was it them or no, it wasn't. It was Bryn Hall on another podcast said the quality at the moment is better for them to play an into country game than playing against Australia. I would watch those games in a heartbeat. It was a cracker, absolute cracker, where the North could have pipped it. As I said, the South put them under a load of pressure. Sam Whitelock, just very quickly on Sam Whitelock before we do move on. He's a clever boy, isn't he? 34, I think, running that line out. They did like a 3-man line out at one point, and then bang, it had gone. He was doing some ridiculously clever things. Like, yeah, but for me, give me more of that. But New Zealand, the talent they've got is absolutely crazy, and I'd consider Sam Cane stepping aside.
Well,
he's not the best.
I mean, Sam Whitelock, I don't know, is he 31?
He can still go. Him and Tuipulotu are by far
he should, if he's fit enough, should be around the next World Cup. And actually, he's already got, I don't know, over 100 caps. But has he retired from international rugby? No,
he wouldn't be in this North v South game if he were.
Right. Ignore me. He's been picked. Make him the captain.
Yeah.
It's a great option, isn't it? There's not many other players. The thing with that back row, if you're going to take Sam Cane out, which I think probably on form you have to, the rest of that back row is quite young. Surveyor's played a lot of games, but he's still quite young. And if you're looking at people to lead a team and sit big kind of senior names, then he's probably one that sticks out.
It's really, really exciting. It was by far the best game of the weekend. It just shows, it's a perfect example of a microcosm of that is the best standard. Like the standard of rugby is exceptional. Then you go to the Premiership, and the Premiership is a good level. Don't get me wrong; it's the best. It's probably the best Northern Hemisphere competition anyway. But the quality of just the pure basics. There was hardly any knock-ons. There was hardly any forward passes. There was basic errors. Discipline was relatively low. Just unbelievable game. Premiership then. We're starting, obviously, the top 5 is starting to take its shape. We've clearly, as I said, I've repeatedly mentioned about other teams that are sort of in transition and moving on. I want to just sort of start with Worcester, because we don't really talk about Worcester, and Worcester never get any recognition on BT Sport, or they never get any really game time or anything like that. But they've been solidly up in the Premiership for a while. We're sort of that 10th team. But I looked on, just thinking about Milani Nanai, and his stats from the game were crazy, like 10 defenders beaten, over 140 metres. Beautiful try where the wingers kicked it down the line and he's gone past, I can't remember who was at fullback for Bristol, but he scored it anyway. I think he's underused there at the moment. Because I was saying after off air, I think Bristol was set up nicely to include Randranda and Charles Piatow. I think the move to 15 is good for him because he's more likely to get the ball necessarily at 15 and have more of those touches. But he's done a break from 75 metres out of absolutely nothing. I just think they could potentially look to use him more because they are going to be in the bottom half of the table next year. They're going to need to get wins where they can, and they need the star players that they have. I just think they're potentially underusing him. What your thoughts were?
Yes, but I think that given the depth of their squad and like the high caliber players, they don't have that after their first team. It kind of does drop off a bit. It'd be where you actually put them other than 15. So I think kind of with Weir and Venter and people like that, and there's a few others in there that actually I think he's probably best suited for them at 15. But they probably need to bring him into the game more. But whether they're, I know they play a lot of Hugard. They're actually, I don't know how it's tough with them kind of on the back foot a lot as well. Because they didn't look too bad for the first 20 minutes of the game. I didn't think.
I think if Worcester get their, it's very there again. I do compare them a lot to Irish because they've got a very good sort of first 15, like very, very good, like international caliber players. And after that, they sort of maybe lack the oomph to push them up the table. And that's where they are. But they, yeah, like if you get Hugard on the pitch, Duncan Weir at 10, like that's international halfback combination. Kovacic we know what Kovacic can do. Cornell Dupree at number 8 is flipping terrifying. He's got amazing ball carrying skills. Yeah, it's just a thought we need to kick it off. Not really a lot to really speak about that Worcester game. Bristol again looked good. Semis quality. Said that before. Solani Pietau had a really good game. Bell scored a try. But the one thing I did want to talk about is former University of Birmingham alumni who never unfortunately turned out for Birmingham first team, Andrew Kitchener, got a red card. And then he turned around to Wayne Barnes and said, "I don't think this is a red card, sir." Where it's clearly, he's punched him in the face. First of all, he slaps him in the face. He then punches him multiple times on the floor and then gets up and says, "Didn't do anything." And then it lovely cuts to the field to see Wayne Barnes look at the point of the screen and go, "You've clearly punched him in the face. Off you go." I just thought it's quite interesting.
I didn't see that, but just if he did do as he said and he turned up and just goes, "No, I don't think it is." You just don't do that, do you? Even if you disagree in rugby, that's not a thing. You don't tell the referee he's got it wrong, especially if he's been blatant and been punching somebody on the floor. What a weird thing to do.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what kind of ban he'll get, but it was just a silly bit of play.
Well, it's not going to help it, is it, if he makes comments like that?
Yeah. Whether that, and I think there was some passing comment that he said something to Wayne Barnes, and Wayne Barnes told him he's going to write it up in the report.
Yeah.
Which, like,
Brilliant work, Wayne.
is quite funny by Wayne Barnes, really. But yeah, pretty stupid. But it's just, I think it was just a player who lost the game by then and was just a bit frustrated and wanted to let his anger out on something, which he should have the self-control to not do that at that point.
I mean, name dropping here, ladies and gentlemen. We obviously went to university. He's a couple of years below us. You wouldn't know it, but he's a big lad. He didn't ever turn out for Birmingham, unfortunately, I think, because his academy contract at Worcester and actually the standard of just below super university rugby level, a bit lower, but he would have made a flipping difference to us. Jesus Christ. Big unit. While we're on red cards, because I haven't really got anything else to say on the Worcester-Bristol game, Owen Farrell has finally been red carded for killing someone's head. Poor old, I've got his name.
Atkinson.
Charlie Atkinson, young lad, came off the rank, and Faz has taken his head off. Oof.
Yeah.
How many weeks? How many weeks is he going to get for
6.
that? 6 weeks.
6.
It'll be pretty, yeah.
Because it will also work off his previous. And I know people say he plays the game on the edge, and there's lots of people saying he played the game on the edge. He didn't mean to do it. One, I think that's besides the point. It was a terrible hit, and he nearly knocked out the guy. That's not playing on the edge. That's playing well beyond it. And also, I think there was quite a good comment made by Andy Good. That was kind of like, it's not a matter of if Owen Farrell gets banned. If he said this previously, it's a matter of when, because everyone knows his tackling, he can be quite near the mark, but he hasn't done anything to improve it. And like people are like, oh, he doesn't make illegal hits. He's improving. He's going to work on it. We're back to the same old story. Owen Farrell he did use his arms quite well here, but it was illegal. But yeah, I think 6 weeks. But Wasps went on to win the game, but that was always going to be the story of the game. But Wasps looked pretty reasonable. And I think for them it'll be Farrell. They've still got a great squad, but he will miss that. More importantly, he will miss that Leinster game, which is pretty disappointing from a Saracens perspective.
Big error on his part.
but they'll probably still. And I think it's unfortunate because Andy Good, the fullback, it was his 300th appearance, so he'll probably be filling in for Farrell when it comes to the Leinster game, I imagine.
On that, actually, do you go Manu Vunipola? Or do you
That's
go
what I was going to suggest, yeah. I mean, it's a tough call, that, but I think against Leinster, probably need Good at fullback. Good can play at fly half if he needs to in a game that isn't the be-all and end-all. But I think in a game like that, you need somebody who is a fly half at fly half. And I think their second best option probably is Manu.
Yeah, and they, as I say, or you've got Pablo Cecino can also play 10 if really needed, and they've also got some other young guys in there. They've got Is it Will Hooley? They've got an American guy that can play. That's been playing for Bedford who can play 10 as well. But obviously that's a baptism by fire. Joe, did you want to say anything on Farrell, or did you have anything?
Just one quick thing. I'm not sure whether anybody else picked up on it. It probably wouldn't unless you're in kind of private school circles. But Charlie Atkinson was at Abingdon last year, the person that Farrell melted. So the last time I saw him was running around the pitch up at Berkhamsted. They narrowly beat us last year. We should have beaten them. So they narrowly beat us. But it's funny that the next time I see him, he's getting absolutely melted by Farrell.
I will play the other side of the argument and just say, obviously, it's an absolutely horrendous tackle, and it's one of the worst I've seen for a while. But fair play to Farrell that he did just go off to the side of the pitch and wait for him to come on.
Oh yeah,
and
he knew straight away. Yeah, and I think
hands up to it, I don't think there's.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever any malice in kind of some of he's a tough bloke and he wants to put a big hit in, but I don't think it was I'm putting a hit in to hurt him. It's I want to do a really big hit, and he got it wrong, and his technique was poor. I don't think there's any kind of I'm angry, because that's the other kind of side people give is he's an angry bloke and he just wants to hurt them. It's not he wants to hurt them. He just wants to put a big aggressive hit in, and do a good job for his team, and it just went wrong.
Yeah, and they'll unfortunately probably won't have him for the Leinster game, which might diminish their chance of going through there. But at the moment, as we'll talk about Leinster a little bit later, they're just on a different level at the moment. Two things for me just from the Wasps game. As I say, Wasps look firmly back to where they were a few seasons ago now, where they lost narrowly in the Premiership final. Jimmy Gofbuth is class, one of the best Premiership imports of all time. He has to be up there, unbelievable player. Just put them in the right areas, kick the goals. And at 28-18 against a Saracens team that I've spoken about that have still got ridiculous players. They were playing a stronger team than they did against Irish the week before, with Farrell back at 10. So massive credit to Wasps. They look seriously good. Tom Willis was superb in the back row for them. The only thing that I wanted to say and have a little discussion on, Elliot Daly's impressed me the last couple of weeks at 13. Would you give him a go at 13 for England, or
no?
I think he's good. He's good. I think he could certainly do a job. But when you look at the people that are in front of him, I think that's the issue. Rather than his ability in that position, it's the people that could do a better job than him, like Slade, Tuolangi, all playing very well at the minute. Marchant as well. And this fact of the matter still is that we still don't have a proper 15. So Daly's probably much more useful there at the moment than he is at 13. But he's definitely good enough. It's just an abundance of talent.
Yeah, which is a nice position to be in.
Yeah, definitely. You need to hark back to, I don't know when it was, early 2010s when we were having 12 trees and whoever else in there. I'm pretty sure Banahan probably played in the centre for England at least once.
Shante and Hape.
Yeah, and Hape. When you're throwing those blokes out, very different times to now when we've got all those names.
Let's move that on. Northampton Exeter, sort of another point back to my sort of unused stars. Nairo Voro started on the bench again for Northampton. But they're not... Northampton, I said, I'm going to repeat the same things I keep talking about, but Northampton aren't set up to use Nairo Voro as much as they used to. They keep running him as a dummy line. And I think he's massive. Just give him the ball. Like, I know it's obvious and easy to read, but he'll take 2 defenders to stop him. Just use him. They did not use him enough against Exeter. And at 22-19, with the Exeter sort of maybe the second team, they had a chance to nick the game. But I worry a bit for Northampton. They're really starting to slip. And they could have had an opportunity to beat Exeter here with a so weakened team. But Phil Dolman's an absolute revelation for Exeter at 13. At 34,
Oh, yeah.
He's off to Sidmouth to do player coach, so he's going to drop down a few leagues. But he can go at 13. Obviously, he was playing 15 for the majority of his career. He's got a bit older, put on a bit of weight. But he's a seriously good option at 13. And the only other thing that I was going to say about Exeter's point of view is Yanis Kirsten is one of the best signings in Premiership history already. Like 26, 25 tackles, I think. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he put a shift in. And I thought Lonsdale looked good as well.
Yeah, he was really good.
Who's just kind of another one of those bodies within that big Exeter pack and that big squad that they've got. Like, they just look across the board. They look like everyone knows what they're doing, and they just look great. The one thing with Northampton, I don't think Big is in great form. He has moments of absolute brilliance, but I think he runs with the ball far too much. There was at one point in the game he definitely missed an offload, but I think he's just, I don't know. And that might be linked kind of to your point about Norivore. Just kind of, is he the right person to bring people like that into the game? He's great, but I'm not sure it's working at the moment.
There's plenty of set moves that they had in there where Naravoro was clearly running a dummy line when they really should have given him the ball, and they didn't use him enough. Like Sale used Rand Bensberg and Tuolangi so much. Bristol look to give Randrandra the ball whenever they can. I just think they're underusing him, especially when in the past where he's been so, and he picks up all those fantasy points. Not always scoring the tries, but his try assists are immense. I was thinking the other day, I think Northampton need to get a new scrum half in. I think Taylor and Alex Mitchell are good England prospects, especially Alex Mitchell being slightly a bit younger. But they need maybe an international level 9 to do something there. I think that's where they may be lacking. They're clearly missing Kobash Reinach because obviously with the tries he got, but the commanding presence he had on the pitch, they could do with one of those. Because the top 5, 6 teams have got international 9s, and at the moment Northampton don't have one. So that's something to think about there.
Yeah. That's very true.
And no, I'm not going to make my point about Furbank actually. Or do I? I'm not. My main point is just very quickly. I don't particularly know why George Furbank ever got capped for England. I know that's quite harsh, but he doesn't. He dropped 2 high balls in that game, and I'm not. Yeah. But I can't think back to a time, and I'll probably just have to go watch some highlights. And probably I said whenever he was really good, get him in, but I don't see him getting back to that level at the moment. He looks well off the pace, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely.
Johnny, take us to Bath. Bath Quins, another big win.
Yeah. Bath looked good, but they seemed to be playing. I mean, I was very disappointed after the Wasps game. They didn't actually. They should have won that game. Wasps were good, but I thought Bath should have, if they were playing like they had been in previous weeks, got back to winning ways. Good win away. Basically, bosh everyone up front. Our pack basically bullied them. Scrum was looking a bit iffy at one stage, but it came through. But yeah, we've just kind of got a big bouldering pack, and we use our outside backs quite well. Don't do anything through the centres particularly. Joseph still has his little jig, kind of flicking to the outside, and people are kind of like, know it's going to happen, but he's so good at it, it works. But Quins looked like a team that kind of the opposite to Bath. I thought Bath, everyone looks like they know what they're doing, and it worked quite well. And we were down to 13 men, I think, 12 men at one point.
Finished the game with 12 players because they had to because they took the hooker off.
It wasn't a yellow card. Looking back on it, was terrible.
I have to say, Josh Matavesi, I don't know, you might not have got it on the highlights, Tricky, but for your benefit, if I know. So the camera pans around. It basically was exactly the same situation as Wasps the week before, but reversed. Like, they were like, oh, can anyone play hooker? And Josh Matavesi stands up and starts rolling his shoulders and starts doing this, like looking like just as a clearly he's joking, because he's obviously not, he's the only sub at this point not being used. So
Right.
and he's played a lot of rugby, so I don't think he was going to get on anyway. But it was quite funny, like he just wanted to get on. And then eventually Will Stewart was basically shoved on, I think. And then they had to take off Faletau because of the law. If you've got a player in the bin from the front row, you have to lose another player. So that's why they had 12. But yeah, Quinn's butchered. They butchered one 5 meters out and they still couldn't score. Like, they did not have a good...
I mean, we had 4 backs. We had 4 backs at that point. And they couldn't score. And they had several opportunities to just and they have some very quick outside backs.
But then
they just look like a team that don't really know what they're doing, and they're waiting for the season to end, basically. I mean, Rob Shaw's not going to be there.
He's going to be
I think there's a few
for them, by the way, just very quickly.
Massive miss.
Huge.
Like, Mike Brown is getting on a bit. Ashton kind of has just turned up, and it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Person who does look good is Marchant. And he was opposite Joseph. So it'll be interesting to see them competing for the 13 jersey for England. Whether they start, maybe not, but as a sub. But they're basically the same. They play in a very similar way. So one of them will lose out at the next England selection. I think it will be between those two for a position.
Because they're very similar.
Very similar, but not much more for that game. I don't think there's too much else to say. Bath kicked on. It'll be interesting to see if they can make the top 4.
Though. Some very strange decision making. They're 3 tries up. They're about 12 points clear. Oh. And then Priestland goes, now we'll take the 3. There's 20 minutes.
They did it twice.
Flipping bonus point. Like, you're 12 points ahead. Quins are clearly not going to score because at that point they were dropping everything and knocking everything on. Stick it in the corner and put under pressure. Like, the line out was so dominant. I just thought there was some very dumb, very dumb calls there. But Bath, Bath are in a good place at the moment. If they can get in the top 4,
great.
But
we'll
I
see.
reckon for them for next year, they just need to get themselves peaking for next season potentially.
Yeah, I just want to see us get a few more players. Joe Cocker-Singer still hasn't come back.
Yeah,
we've still got people like Henry Thomas and Nathan Catt, and our front row is doing perfectly fine without him. So it'll be interesting to see who they keep on, because we haven't even played Shona really much yet, and our pack is looking great for next year. But we shall see. But yeah.
Rocco can still go as well, just very quickly. He's class.
Still great. I mean, there was talk of him going to Béziers but that fell through. So we offered him another contract, but I'm not sure. I think that's to the end of this season. What happens after, I'm not sure. But yeah.
Leicester Sale very quickly, because I'm going to repeat myself over and over again. Sale 40, Leicester 31. Leicester clearly can score tries, but they can't defend tries, is what we're sort of learning about them at the moment. Sale are definitely a top 14 when they get Tuolangi, Faf, McGinty, Luke James, et al., Van Rensburg playing. Like, Tuolangi ran over 4, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. That was probably I didn't particularly watch it in detail because I was waiting for the Irish Quins game, Gloucester game, sorry. But I've nothing really else on that. But there's an interesting source coming out, which is probably going to turn out to be absolute rubbish because this site has never gets any signings wrong. But it's been quite an interesting transfer discussion. Is Christian Wade has not been selected for the Buffalo Bills in their squad. He's going to go back to the practice squad, and apparently Leicester have offered him a lucrative contract. I don't know if you've seen that, but
that would be a very Leicester thing to do.
Yes, very Leicester thing to do. It'd be quite funny to see Wade next to Nadolo.
Large combo.
Little and large. It would be quite interesting. Might be a good. I mean, any decent player kind of who's had some international experience is a good signing for Leicester at the moment, in my book, because their squad is looking not, but they managed still to score 3 tries against Sale, and I'm not sure whether that says kind of good things about kind of the Four Youngs kind of partnership and them linking up well, or whether it's a concern for Sale that they conceded 31 points to what, to be honest, is a very new Leicester side that haven't looked great. It's a bit of a non-game, but it was nice for Tuilagi to get back to beating Leicester. I quite liked that, and he scored. So yeah,
the battle of Joe and Johnny happened the last game. BT Sport hyped it up as the battle for 8th, because I'm going to talk about the European competition in a moment, the restructuring. That the 8th team from the Premiership would get in, and obviously Gloucester are 8th, Irish are 9th. That's completely gone now because Gloucester are far too clear and Irish didn't get a bonus point, which I wish they had. 36-12 in the end, it looks quite comfortable for Gloucester, but for the last part of that game, I thought Irish they played the best they've ever done this campaign. But what I do want to say is Albert Tuisui is absolutely class at 8. He was absolutely fantastic. Over the ball was brilliant. Austin Creevy has been one of the best signings for Irish for a while. He is impact. 2 tries in a row. He's got 4 turnovers in 2 games. Admittedly, he's conceded a couple of penalties, but he's really, really good. But just very quickly on Irish, did make me laugh was Nick Phibbs had his best game in an Irish shirt, and he just clearly looked like an international 9. Paddy Jackson, one of his better games in the Irish shirt. But you've got 2 international quality players there with not international quality forwards or not international quality backs. And it showed when Nick Phibbs was ready to pass and he was playing so quick, and Gloucester were struggling to reorganise their defensive line and gave a couple of penalties away. Irish just weren't ready. And I'm just like, we've got so much quality, and then we've got the drop off. Like, we have to somehow find a way of just filling that gap. But we've still got O'Brien to come back in. Coleman's taken his surgery. He's had to have knee surgery, I think, so he'll be back for the start of the season. Rob Simmons is coming in. Irish will be fine, I think. We're going to be in the bottom half for next season. I'm not disputing that, but when we can get our best players out, we can do some damage. But put my hands up, Gloucester were just better when they needed to be. And Louis Rees-Zammit, who came on for Woodward, a bit injured, doesn't look very nice on his ankle, bless him, but so fucking quick. Just burned Hassel Collins, just absolutely burnt him with a classic Gloucester move of giving the ball to 12, 12 goes back to 10, the winger comes round, that's Johnny May, and then it's nicely finished. But yeah, Gloucester looking good. Anything from you on Gloucester, Tricky?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I wasn't able to watch the entire match, so watch the highlights. And yeah, it was another decent performance from a few people. It looks like Pelledri popping up with a few that he intercepted to set up the first try for Lloyd Evans, and then May, Thorley, and Rees-Zammit all looking quality. And we know how dangerous that back 3 is, so we just got to have the centres and the fly half inside them, get the ball to them. Atkinson, look, he flew a couple of good passes. The bit that I think I was most impressed by, I think it was the try that finished it, with Geordie Reid firstly taking a looped pass right out in front of him, great take, but to then go and draw in some defenders and pop it just over the top to I think it was Clement, maybe, or Varney.
No, it's Varney, and we'll talk about Varney in a minute.
To finish off the try. But yeah, I've been really impressed with Geordie Reid and what I've seen of him so far. And for him to be supporting the likes of Pelledri, Ackerman hasn't been great from what I've seen, but we've got a lot of depth in certain positions in the back row and in the back 3, which is very exciting. But it's kind of what happens in those middle sections in the rows, and whoever's starting at fly half, because that seems to make a big difference. But yeah, win's a win.
Yeah, and in the end, it was quite comfortable. As I say, Irish kind of gifted the first try. It was good pressure again, but yeah, that you going up. Stephen Varney at 9 is decent. Like, he looks a decent prospect. Italian. international at under 20s level. I think he's got an Italian grandmother, but he was man of the match. He was really, really very impressive. And impressive even so when Irish were looking, when it was 3 points behind, I think Irish were pushing for their try. And I think they sent Simpson on and they rejigged the back line because of injuries. And Simpson actually went onto the wing and Varney played the whole game at 9, which is, I think, is a great credit to George Skivington as coach to actually go with this kid, because actually Gloucester probably could have potentially done with moving Simpson to 9 just to sort of solidify some of it. As I say, Varney was very, very good, but as I say, he was still a young guy. But yeah, great pressure for him. And that sort of wraps up nicely the Premiership. Very quickly, because I don't think we've really seen, you two have watched any Super Rugby AU. I haven't watched it in great detail, but the Rebels have got through to the playoff. They nicked it with the last try. It was quite drama at the end. I don't know if you've seen it, but I think it's Marth who thinks he's scored, but then he's actually short. So he goes away and celebrates, and it's Kawash Elof who just picks the ball up and puts the ball on the line. And then it's scored. So actually Mafu's like celebrating, thinking he's won the game, but actually his was deemed short, but because they just played on, they won. But yeah, Force kept it in it, but I haven't really seen a lot of it because obviously I was watching the North-South game and that was 5 minutes left. And the Reds surprised a lot of people by beating the Brumbies. They look pretty good. Dominant performance from them. So what are we anyone seeing not a Reds Brumbies final in 2 weeks?
Don't think so. From what we've seen and from what the scoreline suggests, they seem to be the two better teams, most consistent teams over the tournament, and that goes to show even more if the Reds have just beaten the Brumbies, those two must be the most closely matched teams. So yeah, I think so. That's probably going to be what
happens. Pro 14, very quickly. To touch on that, Leinster looking like they're going to be 3 times champions back to back. They beat Munster in a relatively uneventful game. They roll out Sexton, semi-final Sexton as I call him. He's basically played no rugby, and they roll him out for the last important games. But it wasn't as good as the first game they played in their sort of rivalry game. And then Edinburgh looked good, really good from what I saw against Ulster. Ulster fought back well, and then Ian Madigan hit a last drop penalty, obviously. Struggled at Bristol as well. Did well for them in the championship, but didn't really get the go, obviously, behind Callum Sheedy. So obviously left. But yeah, great. Ulster finally into a Pro 14 final. So
yeah, it'd be nice to see them do it, and I think it'd be nice to see Madigan maybe compete for that Irish jersey again. It'd be interesting to see. Might happen, might not.
He's definitely
going back a few years, but yeah, it didn't. They look good, but I think kind of the Irish sides on the whole are definitely the best in the league. I think that league is very kind of split on the. It's kind of the Irish sides followed by Edinburgh and Glasgow, and then the Welsh sides kind of just sitting at the bottom. But nothing unexpected really. I think in the final, I think it will probably be Leinster running over them.
Yeah, they look particularly strong, and I think they'll continue to be continue on. I think obviously they've got Saracens on the September 19th weekend, so yeah, we'll see how that goes on. But they just look absolutely quality at the moment. Definitely one of the best sides. Them and Exeter at the moment being one of the best sides in the Northern Hemisphere. Round up the top 14, absolutely devastated due to COVID-19. Stade Francais player gets COVID, which means our beloved Bordeaux can't start. So they're a game behind. But we've got Brive next weekend. Come on, I think we can beat Brive. Big result of the weekend is probably Pau getting a 26-23 win over Montpellier away from home. La Rochelle, a higher West, apparently had a very good game against Toulon, 29-15 at home. Agen lost at home to Castres, 22-26. Lyon lost at home to Racing, 23-27. And Brive are currently playing Bayonne at the moment. You've got the Clermont-Toulouse game on, Johnny. What have we got there?
No, I haven't got it on yet. Just to note, though, from an English perspective, so I remember us discussing it when it first kind of got announced. Ibitore, they did lose. Agen did lose to Cast, but scored 2 tries on his first appearance. So I wish him well, and hopefully he can get good amount of experience out in France and come back competing for an England jersey will be good to see. But the current Brive are currently beating Bayonne, and Clermont versus Toulouse only just really, I think it kicked off at 8, but 0. But that'll be a good game.
I'll try and catch a bit of the top 14. As I said, we're not going to go into too much detail. What it is we just done there, we'll just tell you the scores, but we'll might go into a bit more detail about our beloved Bordeaux. Come on, the Bordeaux. Hopefully we'll be able to go see them at some point next year. European Cup. That's what I wanted to end it on. Just the structure of the European Cup has changed for next season, one season only, because of the shorter because of the turnaround and everything like that. So I'll try and explain it best for those that haven't seen it. So it's going to be in the European Heineken Cup anyway. We'll start with that. There's 24 teams, so the best top 8 out of the Pro 14, top 14, and the Premiership. It's going to be the squads are going to be based on a tier system. So you can have tier 1 to tier 4. So if you're the highest rank in your league, you're going to be tier 1, and if you're the lowest rank, so if you were 8th, let's say Gloucester are going to go on to tier 4. It's going to be split into 2 leagues where you're going to play 4 matches. So you're not going to play everyone. You're going to play 4 matches. No domestic games. So we're not going to get the repeat of like Bath Quins, where we don't want to see that again. You're going to play against other countries from the Pro 14 and top 14. But it's going to be seeded on tier 1 teams will play tier 4 teams, and tier 2 teams will play tier 3 teams. The top 4 from each pool will go into the quarterfinals, so which is going to be 2-legged quarterfinals, followed by a straight semi-final and then the final in Marseille. The next best 4 from each pool will then go into the knockout stages of the European Challenge Cup. The Challenge Cup will have one pool of 14. You're going to play 4 games, again, based on ranking. So if you're 9th place in the Premiership, so importantly, London Irish will get a higher rank at the moment than the rest, which will be really good. Again, no domestic games. You play 4 games. Then you go into a round of 16. So the top 8 from that league of the Challenge Cup will play up against the bottom, or the next best 8 from the European Cup, and then straight knockout from then. I know you may or may not have seen it, and I might have described that poorly, but what do you think of that?
I like the idea that actually you'll be playing constantly teams from other leagues. That's great. I think, though, from a perspective of not many teams same amount of teams are going to make the knockout stages, is that, and you'll be playing them home and away, is that when you have the top tier team against a tier 4 team, I mean, you could have the likes of, I don't know, looking at the tables now for the Premiership, you could have the likes of Leinster playing Quins, which is not going to be much of a game when it's going to be 1 versus 4. 2 versus 3, there might be a bit of competition. Yeah. But given that it's 8 teams from each league rather than the 6, that kind of is a reasonable difference. And those teams from the top tier teams against the bottom tier, they're the ones ranked 4, I think might be non-games. I do like the idea of the quarterfinal being over 2 legs, because actually, I think there's probably some good stats you could put on this, but going to Leinster away in a quarterfinal, like I think Saracens are, it's a tough ask. But knowing that Leinster and then coming back to you might even it out, and you might see. It'll be an interesting format. I think it might be. It'll be good to see kind of those. There might be a greater kind of more upsets basically at that quarterfinal stage, because it's over 2 legs, rather than going away to having to go to somewhere like Clermont away at a quarterfinal. Most teams in Europe would be nervous of that, where over 2 legs, some teams don't travel well. It'd be interesting.
Where's the semi-final?
The best, I think it's the highest ranked team, same as what it is for how it is, how they get seeded at the moment. So let's say Leinster top the group, won that group. They played, I don't know, let's say Cast for argument's sake, and Cast were ranked 3rd from the other group or whatever. it's basically done on your seeding. I think from then, that's how I got it anyway.
But basically, the semi-final is just one fixture, and it's not neutral. It's
I
at
don't think
that.
so. No.
So I don't get why the semi-final wouldn't be two-legged and the quarter-final just one.
I think
The semi-final is a more important game
as well. I agree with your point, Johnny, about the top. I think the top tier 1 playing tier 4. Yes, you're gonna have to give the tier 1s because they've qualified, they've been in that best position, but they're in that position for a reason because they are the better sides. Like if you look at it if you look at it in this perfect example, right? Leinster are going to be ranked tier 1. They play Gloucester, who are 8th. There's one winner in that, isn't there? Really? I mean, would even Gloucester? Not saying Gloucester wouldn't put out their best team for it, but I don't know.
Let's just hope London Irish make it and they can go play Racing 92.
Oh God, could you imagine?
There'd be some fireworks at that game though. Racing would go off on one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's quite interesting to see how it would go from that regard. I think the Challenge Cup teams get hampered again by having 8 teams drop down from the Heineken Cup, so it kind of makes their route to get anything a bit difficult. But it would be interesting. It's an interesting concept. I don't hate it. It was quite complicated when I read it to get my head around it, but after you've kind of read it twice, it kind of makes sense. But yeah, for especially for managing player workload, I think we can all agree. And Bath, I'm not picking on Bath, but they're the ones that do spring to mind, where they were in that group of death a couple of years ago with, maybe was it Clermont and someone else, where that group had been won in the first 3 games, and Bath and Quins.
And then I decided to go on an away trip to Clermont for a non-game and watch Bath get tonked.
Yeah, that was it. It was like 50, wasn't it? Ooh, 50. Ooh. Yeah, so I think in that regard, it will reduce those games, which I think is important. And actually, I don't want to see Exeter Bath. I don't really want to see Wasps Exeter. Like, we get that all the time in the Premiership. I want to see more. I want to see Wasps play Bordeaux. I want to see Wasps play Toulouse or Exeter Toulouse or Clermont, etc. Like that's the games we want to see. So yeah, I think it could be a good way, and hopefully they then take the best elements of that and put it into the competition going forward. Sort of rounds everything off that we sort of talked about there. Players of the week quickly. I'll give Joe a little bit longer because he's got to go off what he's seen on highlights. Player of the week. This can be from any league. So just a player of the week.
Because I like talking about him, Will Jordan.
Yeah, go on. Stick him in. I've got the photo.
Rather than a Bath player, because that would be unoriginal of me. Not like Will Jordan's unoriginal, but yeah, Will Jordan, because I want to see him get an All Black cap.
Yeah, I love Will Jordan. Mine, I wanted to go with Nick Phibbs because of I thought he was absolutely brilliant for Irish, but then you've got to say that we didn't win the game, unfortunately, and Stephen Varney was, in the end, better, and he probably goes in for the scrum half of the week anyway, in our team of the week, which will come out after this podcast. For me, though, it comes from the South team, the North East South game. Tom Sanders, for me, was absolutely brilliant, though he's not been picked by the All Blacks, and I think that's a shame. But then that back row is really, really competitive. He really did put his hand up and shows that he can actually do well at that in that 8 shirt. So for me, he's my player of the week. Tricky, Mr. Highlights.
Yeah, very difficult to really get a good picture of who didn't play well. It's more, from my point of view, going to be who came up with the best piece of skill or best addition to the highlights. It's difficult, to be honest. Who am I going to go with? I'm going to go with Louis Rees-Zammit. Why not?
Yeah,
he's little Gloucester wonder kid. This try that he scored was absolute gas.
So good.
I hope he keeps increasing and getting better the way that he has been.
Do you reckon he will be capped this autumn?
Oh, great question. Probably not. I think he'll probably be around the squad. Not sure he'll get capped. I think as good as he is, he's probably a bit too light at the moment for international rugby. but I think he'll be there soon. My worry with him is that I don't think it's going to be too long before he actually goes to Wales, because I'm going to think that all the Wales coaches are going to want him over there. So we've got to just make use of him whilst we've got him, I think.
But Austin Healy, who's a massive fan of him, was very keen to say and stress on BT on commentary that he hasn't been capped by Wales. He could still be capped by England. He's still English. He's half English, half Welsh. So Eddie,
that's such an Austin Healy comment.
Come on.
That's so Austin Healy. Not going to happen.
Nobody else apart from him would even think about doing that. He's Welsh through and through. He talks about it a lot in social media. He's very Welsh, so I don't think that'll happen, sadly.
Just to end it, because I did forget to mention it in the Bath game, I really like Lewis Boyce's try this week.
Oh God, how did I miss that? 40-meter intercept by a prop,
and he just
nearly got caught. And he was out of breath. It was a hot day that day. He was panting. But yeah, I think he'll be showing that on his highlight reel to his probably grandkids, saying this was me back in the day.
Living off that
as
for
a prop.
That was the week for me. That was absolutely brilliant. I love to see props have a go. That's really good stuff. Lads, great job. Right, we'll leave it there. We've obviously there's midweek games to come this week. Did you want to have just to finish it off? Did you just want to quickly shout who you think might win?
Shall I run through the fixtures and then?
You got it out there?
Yes, it is just coming up now. So on Wednesday, it is I think it is the entire Premiership. We've got Gloucester. Exeter. Wasps Leicester, the Midlands derby that it now is. Wasps. Sale Saracens, interesting.
Oh, okay.
Depending which team turns up,
Saracens will rotate because they've played their best team twice and they've got Leinster in 2 weeks.
Leinster in 2 weeks and they don't have their fly half anymore. True, yep.
Academy to get rolled out, Sale to make changes, but to have enough in there, Sale.
I agree with all that, but I think Sarries are going to want to win, having lost. I don't think they wanted to lose. It's quite funny listening to the Sarries fans up here, even though it means nothing to them, they still really, really want to win. So I'm going to say Sarries.
Yeah, fair. I mean, I think if Sarries hadn't had their points deduction, they'd be in second at the moment.
Yeah.
Bath Worcester.
Where is it?
It would be very Bath to lose this one after a run of good form, but no, they won't. Bath will win.
I think Bath will rotate, and I think it'll be close, but I think Bath will win.
And then what I think will actually potentially be kind of the game of Wednesday, London Irish Quins. It will be an interesting battle.
I'm going to say
eighth against ninth.
It's
battle for that 8th place. I mean, if Irish win this, they get within striking distance of that European spot. If they lose it, the gap gets bigger.
Difficult. Hang on. I just want to have a quick look at the Quins team that played on Saturday, because Irish were pretty much at full strength apart from notable injuries.
Caird, Dombrandt, Rob Shaw were playing.
Irish Academy versus Quins second team. Go on Irish by 3.
I'll go Irish as well.
I'm going to say Irish because I want a bit more competition for that 8th spot. Otherwise, there'll be a massive gap.
I just want Irish to win because I need Irish to win. So that sort of rounds us off for this week. Then we will touch back in on Sunday to round up those games and the weekend's games ahead. I can say thank you very much to those that have followed us on Instagram, etc. And keep following the pod. Do keep sharing it with your friends and stuff. As I say, we're just blokes that like talking about ruggers. Quite simple, quite straightforward. See you later, lads, and have a nice week.
Cheers, lads.